Hey everyone, my name is David Rao and I'm the music teacher who blogs at makemomentsmatter.org. You can also find my ideas on Instagram, on Twitter, on Pinterest, on YouTube, and a variety of other places when you search for my name, David Rao, or Make Moments Matter Music Education. I'm so excited to be sharing with y'all tonight. I have some really exciting things to talk about tonight. I'm planning on going through all of my kindergarten through 5th grade lessons for the week. I'm going to do a quick recap of some of my favorite things from my kindergarten lessons. So run through my kindergarten lessons. Who doesn't need more kindergarten ideas? And then I'm also going to be sharing a little bit about just a few of my favorite Christmas themed books. I shared last week about some of my favorite Thanksgiving books, Thanksgiving themed books, and a lot of people had some really great comments saying like, oh my gosh, thanks for talking about this now, so I have some time to go out and purchase or find in a library or find in a local bookstore. And so I wanted to start sharing a little bit about some of those Christmas books because there are so many great ones that you can look through and give you some ideas about those Christmas books now so that you have time to go and look for them before you need them. Because as soon as you know it, you know, things are coming up. The National Conference for AOSA, the American Orff Shulverk Association, is coming up. I hope you'll plan to be there. I'm going to be there. I hope that to see many of you there. That's coming up really soon, and then Thanksgiving break happens, and then it's, you know, concert season and everything else happens, and you want to get these books sort of planned out now. Start thinking about them now. So I'm going to talk about just a few of those tonight, and I have a whole slew of Nutcracker books that I'm hoping are planning to talk about very soon. But I'm going to start with those some of those favorite Christmas books this week. But before I do that, I just wanted to share that you know, last week I talked about some of my favorite Thanksgiving books to use for Thanksgiving, and actually today, Monday, tomorrow, Tuesday, and Wednesday, I am I'm doing a giveaway for some Thanksgiving themed books. And so if you follow the link that's on the links page right now, because for each of these videos I do a links page. If you click on that link and go to the links page right now, there is a giveaway for 4 Thanksgiving themed books, and some that I actually talked about last week. There was an old lady, or I know an old lady who swallowed a pie by Allison Jackson, pictures by Judith Byron Schosner, sorry. There's the book Run Turkey Run, which is by Diane Mayer, and illustrations by Laura Rader. And then 2 versions of Over the River and Through the Woods. This one illustrated by Emma Randall, and this other one by Linda Ashman, illustrated by Kim Smith. I'm giving all 4 of these away, and you have until Wednesday night at midnight to enter that giveaway. So today's the 4th? You have until the 6th at midnight. So if you go to the bottom or to the links page, it's right there. Or if you follow my Facebook page or my Twitter account, you can find a link to that. And you have time to enter if you want. And podcast listeners, if you're listening to this, go enter now because you have less time than people who watch the video. But those are there. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to pay anything. You just enter and you're good to go. So like I said, all those links are on the links page if you want to find those. And if you have questions or comments along the way, please ask those questions. It looked like my secondary camera that's taking video for Instagram just shut down because the phone decided to do an update right now in the middle of everything else. So awesome. Sorry, Instagram viewers. Hopefully that doesn't happen to my other video. We'll find out. But if Facebook cuts out, it might be because my iPhone has gone rogue and decided to update itself at 8:05. Anyway, I'm going to start sharing about some of my favorite Christmas books and then jump into my lesson plans for the week. So I'm just going to share just a few books that you could use in December. Like I said, I have a whole set of Nutcracker books I'm going to talk about on another day, but just a few of my favorites. 2 of these are just like oldie goldies I've been using for years. This first one is Frosty the Snowman, an illustrated version of that by Steve Nelson and Jack Rollins, illustrated by Richard Caudry. I think I've shared about this before. I know I've put it in a blog post before, but it's a really, really fun book, and I like this one because it gives such wonderful illustrations of things that actually happen in the book and gives some really great context for when you're singing the song. It has a lot of awesome, really easy for kids to understand illustrations too. So like when the hat goes on Frosty, he transforms from this very, inert snowman to a moving, dancing, having great time snowman. And so this This book is not expensive if you find it on the used book pages or find it online, and it's also very big. I mean, if you can sort of see in proportion to me, it's really big. So it's nice for read alouds because kids can see the illustrations very easily, and it's not too expensive. So that's really great. And actually, I first found this in my school library, so you might have access to that in your library as well. Go check those out now. Or if you have your own copy, another thing that you could do that I've talked to my librarian about is I have a personal copy for my classroom library, but I talk to the librarian and say like, hey, if you'd get a copy of this, when I teach it, I can tell you and you can set it up on the shelf so that kids can take it out from the library and check it out and read through it on their own. And that has been really helpful. So like for the old lady who swallowed a fly, I told her, and she had like a whole centerpiece of all the different versions, and kids took them like wildfire. So it's sometimes nice, even if your school library has one, to have your own copy or to have an extra copy so that you can read it, and then it'll be available for kids in their library. Okay, so this is by, like I said, illustrated by Richard Caudry, and another book in sort of the same series, I'm going to set that one down, is this very large one called Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. But this is by Robert L. May, illustrated by David Wenzel. And I really love this one because, again, it's the same size, but it's really, really big, and it has a lot of fun context for, Rudolph is sort of a well-known song for a lot of our kids, but this gives context as to, why, what's happening, what's going on, why is Rudolph sad, and it gives lots of great illustrations that help give more context to the song. And so I just think it's a really amazing book, and it's fun because it is sort of updated. Santa was flying in this fog. He almost gets hit by a plane, which is sort of crazy. And it shows, him going down and trying to find the houses and having a really hard time and tripping and falling. And when he finds Rudolph, it's just this amazing, transformative thing. So it's just a fun book to have. And like I said, not expensive and very big and easy for kids to see if you're doing a read aloud. I've always taught the 12 Days of Christmas, and now I have an illustrated version to use with it. This is a new one for me. It'll be new to my students this year. The 12 Days of Christmas, illustrated by Emma Randall. And if that name sounds familiar, it's because one of the books, the Over the River and Through the Woods, that I'm giving away in the giveaway this week is illustrated by the same person. And I shared about this book last week, the Over the River, but the 12 Days of Christmas is it's really fun, and it has some diverse representation in the characters, but it's also pretty clean and simple and easy for kids to see. So I like it because the words pop out. When you're doing a new verse on the fourth day of Christmas, my true love gave to me 4 calling birds, and the 4 and the fourth are both highlighted in another color. So it's really good for kids who are, if you had a copy in your school library, it's great for readers who are learning to read, because the text is there, right, available in a nice blank space, and new call-out words are colored in red for kids to sort of see and visualize. But the pictures are just wonderful. They're easy and accessible for kids. And like I said, I love that there's some diverse representation of kids with different skin tones and different heights and weights and sizes. And it's just a fun illustration to have, a fun version of this. And they just look so happy. Anyway, I've always taught the song. I've never had a book, and I'm excited to have this one sitting out to use. And then the last one I wanted to show is this one. It's not Christmas related necessarily, but Walking in a Winter Wonderland, which can just connect in with the popular song, as sung by Peggy Lee, illustrated by Tim Hopgood, who's another person we've talked about before on these videos. He's done a really famous version of Singin' in the Rain. And so this is just a fun book with beautiful illustrations. And it goes through, if you had the song, you could play the song as you were reading it. But the illustrations are just so fun and fun for kids to see. They're eye-catching, they're colorful, especially in a book that's about, white and snow and the winter. It's just exciting and colorful. And so I'm really I'm really looking forward to pulling this out. The other cool thing is that in the white and in the gray and in the snow, the illustrator puts musical notes in bright colors so that they pop out and they sort of, go inside the background and fill in. Or when it is colorful, they put a pop of white notes in there. So it's just really fun, and the illustrator's really amazing. But these books, like I said, if you get them now, or if you start looking for them now, you'll probably be able to find them pretty cheap and have them shipped to you for cheap if you're going to buy them, or you can find them through your library. But even if you're like, oh, that's sort of cool, but I don't know if I would really use this whole Rudolph, because this Rudolph version is pretty long, and if you noticed as I was sort of thumbing through, there are quite a few pages just sort of filled with text and backstory. Even if you think like, oh, I don't know if I'm going to use that, you can put them in a subtab. You can give them out to teachers to use in their classroom. You can use it for, those last days before the winter holiday when you're like, oh, surprise, I get a double helping of this class, or, I get something happens. It's nice to have that available and ready to go if you want it. Okay, so those are just some of my favorite Christmas books, but you can obviously do you can do a lot more. I have a lot more books on my Amazon page, because I have that Amazon page where I list all my favorite books and things in one place. If you're interested on that Amazon page, I have a listing of everything, or just a lot of books. If you have some great suggestions, I love to add them there so people can find them. Or you can always go to that page and copy down the ISBN or copy down the author and go find it in your local library or find it at a used bookstore or whatever. But they're all there in that one place, and that's linked on the links page. And that's just a few of my favorite books for Christmas, but you can do, there are a lot more, and I'll probably share more in the coming weeks. And I'm definitely planning on sharing some of my favorite books for the Nutcracker. I have quite a few here ready to go, so I'm excited to be sharing about those. Instagram looks like it just turned back on because apparently my phone decided to update just, 8 minutes ago. So if you're joining me on Instagram, thanks so much for joining back in, and I'm sorry we lost you. Okay, so those are just some books and for Thanksgiving, for Christmas. Don't forget there's a giveaway going on for the Thanksgiving books. But I'm going to move on and talk about my kindergarten through 5th grade lessons, and then I'll do a focus on kindergarten. So actually, I'm not going to do kindergarten because I'm coming back to that in just a second. So I know that it is the first week of November, but it is only my 9th time seeing students because of my weird, crazy schedule where, I have 1,200 students. I see them once every 7 school days. So it's sort of a weird time that even though we're quite a ways into the school year, I'm only seeing students for the 9th time. And it's hard. What's tricky, and you'll see that in these lessons if you watched last week and you saw my lessons from last week, a lot of what you see this week sort of mirrors that and builds on it a little bit. There are some new things, but there's a lot of pulling from last week and putting into this set of lessons. And this is something you can think about as you're planning your lessons. It's always good to repeat things that you've done because kids like that. They like having repetition. They like doing something that they feel like they're good at. But also for me, what was tricky was I was gone last Thursday and Friday because I was in Saskatchewan for the Saskatchewan Music Conference. So I missed 2 days of my rotation for that. And then there were some other things that happened, or people were on field trips. And there are a couple times in my lessons that I wrote down concepts are new to days 2, 6, 7, or 2, 3, 6, 7, or whatever, because that group was on a field trip, or they weren't around, or something happened. And so if you're creating lessons and you need to have a little footnote like that, that's great to do. But also, as you're creating it, if you do have those big holes, because for some of these kids, they've over half of the rotation didn't get the previous lesson. So for some of these kids, I'm teaching it for the first time. So instead of trying to hyperload, overload the lesson and try and fit 2 days into 1 day, I'm just going on the best I can with the kids who have already gotten the content and then pulling in the most important things for the kids who haven't, if that makes sense. But anyway, so as you go along, if you're like, this sounds like something in the last lesson, it probably does, because I sort of have to for the sake of my lessons. Let's see, I'm not sure. Oh, sorry. Facebook's being a little bit weird. I hope it's not going to shut off like Instagram did. Nope, don't know what that is. Okay, sorry. If you're commenting, I can't see it. So sorry if you're asking questions or having comments, because for some reason Facebook's not letting me see any of that. So maybe nobody had anything to say. Who knows? But if you did, I'm so sorry if you're asking these like really amazing, wonderful questions and I'm not even attempting to answer. It's not because I'm ignoring you. It's because I can't see any questions if you have them. Okay, so hopefully other people on the video are helping out. Sorry. Let me get into lessons. So, first grade, they come in, we do copycat, we pull out and do a feature on the tone block because that's a super easy lesson and also, a super easy way to start, and also because my predecessor or someone in the last 30 years of the school bought like 40 tone blocks. So I have a huge set of them, so I try and use them whenever I can. They're really easy, they're nice because they're very durable and I can just pass them around and use them for basically anything. And they're great for rhythm, they're great for tone, they're great for mallet practice, and so I use them whenever I can. Not to say that you should go out and buy 30 tone blocks. I mean, if you don't have 30 tone blocks, don't feel like, oh, I gotta prioritize buying them. No. But I've got them, so I use them. We do a focus on solfege. We do attendance by singing back and forth. Hello, David. Hello, Mr. Rao. Hello, Daniel. Hello, Mr. Rao. And so we just go back and forth doing attendance that way. We bring back the song Old King Glory, which many of my kids learned in the last lesson. It's a super fun little song that I sang through last time when I shared about my first grade lessons. And then I bring in the book. Let's see where it is. Run, Turkey, Run. Talked about this last week. But Run, Turkey, Run is a really fun book by Diane Mayer, illustrations by Laura Rader. And what the turkey does in this book is, it's, the day before Thanksgiving, but Turkey won't be giving thanks, not unless he manages to escape. Run, Turkey, run. Clumpity clomp, here comes the farmer. And the turkey's like running, trying to hide. Oh, see the pig pen? If Turkey rolls in the mud, will the farmer think he's a pig? No! Run, Turkey, run! Muckety muck, here comes the farmer. So the turkey goes through a lot of different places. He tries to hide in the duck pond. I love it. He has a little snorkel on. I think that's sort of hilarious. He tries to hide in the barn. That doesn't work out so well. He finally goes and hides in the trees, and when he's actually pretty successful. Trees. If Turkey covers himself with branches, will the farmer think he's a tree? Maybe. The farmer doesn't see him. Can it be? A turkey safe at last? Yes. Thanksgiving Day comes. The farmer and his family eat peas, mashed potatoes, and grilled cheese sandwiches. Turkey gives thanks. But he better not for long, because Thanksgiving Day goes, and the farmer and his family are picking out their Christmas tree, and guess who they find? The turkey. And it ends with, Run, Turkey, run! Now, this is a fun book for my kids. Just on its own, it would be fun. But the really cool thing is we just did The Little Old Lady Who Was Not Afraid of Anything not too long ago, and there are some elements in here that you could connect. So, Run, Turkey, run. Well, then you hear the farmer go, Clompity clomp, here comes the farmer. Well, in the previous book, the shoes go clomp, clomp. And so the kids are like, oh, the clompity clomp, that's the farmer running after the turkey. Yeah, and so then when the farmer runs through mud, it goes muckety muck, here comes the farmer. And so it's like, why does it say muckety muck? Oh, because the sound of, the boots going through the mud, yeah. And then, splashity splash, here comes the farmer. So it's fun to sort of make that connection. And then you can also talk about how the turkey tries to hide, tries to sort of camouflage himself. That's sort of fun. But I also sort of make it into an easy little thing where kids just, kids will anticipate what's coming. They'll know the run, turkey, run. Or there are these questions that the author asks every time. Look, the duck pond, if the turkey swims in the water, will the farmer think he's a duck? And the kids get to answer, no! Run, turkey, run! And so that's sort of fun for them to be able to be involved like that. But that's also predictive text, and you can also point and so help kids sort of see sight word, no, and they know that it's coming, and so to let them sort of be a part of the reading in that way is fun. But I also just love the Clompity Clomp, Muckety Muck, Splashy Splash. It's a really fun little book. And that's one of the books that's in the Thanksgiving giveaway. So if you go enter for that, you could win that book for free for your class. And that's also great because then we do the song Shoo Turkey, where the turkey sort of runs off to try and hide because it doesn't want to get eaten. And we could talk about all the things that we could get at the store. So if you know that song, it's a really fun little song, and I have a blog post about that. But in this page of the book, we talk about, the things that they eat because they're not eating turkey. Well, you can tie that into the song Shoo Turkey, and it just makes a fun, simple, sort of easy connection. If we have time, we do Thanksgiving vocal exploration, which I'll show you in just a minute with the kindergarten lesson. And then at the end, if we didn't have a chance in the last lesson, we do the song Old Black Fly. The fly who's buzzing around, and bothering everyone. Because in the last lesson, we did Old Lady Who Swallowed a Fly. And if we had time, we did this book. Well, a lot of the classes didn't have time because the other things took too long. So this is another great book to add in. And this has a fly who buzzes around the house. And it's sort of an alphabet book because on each page, there's an element that starts with the next letter of the alphabet. So the fly coughed on the cookies with the chocolate bits. He drove the dog nearly out of his wits. Shoo, fly, shoo. So this connects really well because we just did Old Lady Who Swallowed a Fly. It's fun to think about. Kids love thinking about the fly buzzing around and seeing all the places he goes. But we also just did the song Shoo Turkey. And so this is sort of an easy next connection of shoo, talking about, get away, shoo. And also just with a fly. And this poor fly, the turkey gets saved. The fly does not get saved at the end of the book because the fly, he lands on all these sort of things. He bothers all these different people in the family, and at the end you can go bzzz, landed right here in the book, and you can sort of smash the fly in the book and then show the kids the smash page, and they all go crazy for that. So it's another fun, easy little book, Old Black Fly, and that is by Jim Aylesworth, illustrated by Stephen Gammell. And that's first grade. It's a lot of little pieces, but all that sort of are bonded together either by theme or by musical content or by different elements that we've been running through our lesson plans in the last couple weeks. Second grade, they come in and we do our circle, we do copycat, and then every other kid will get a tone block. And then in between each tone block, I give the kid who doesn't have an instrument, doesn't have a tone block, they get a hand drum. And so it's sort of fun because you can repeat rhythms back and forth. You can have one set of instruments do a steady beat while the other one repeats rhythms. You can have a sort of a contest to see who can do the rhythms the best. You can have, there's so many different things you can do. You can talk about timbre. There are just a lot of fun things that you can do with this when every kid has an instrument. And the nice thing is then if you don't have enough tone blocks for every kid in the class, but you do have a nice mix. It could be tone blocks and, egg shakers, or it could, those are harder to use, but it could, anything you have a lot of, you could just sort of intersperse. And if you have those every other, then when you rotate, the kid feels like, I'm doing something brand new, when really you're just sort of extending your lesson by doing it now with another set of kids. You're rotating around so the kid feels like the content is new or the activity is new, even when it's just like next rotation. So that's sort of fun. And then, it's been not too long ago that we really labeled and talked about quarter note and eighth notes and quarter rest. I know that's sort of late in the sequence for a lot of folks. A lot of folks talk about those things in maybe kindergarten or first grade. I waited until second grade. I once heard Jill Trinka say, and Jill Trinka's a really great mind in the Kodai world. I heard her say or read her somewhere say that if you don't see kids more than once a week, you shouldn't do written notation until second grade. Well, I've been spending kindergarten and first grade working on musicality, working on understanding of beat and rhythm and feeling it inside and movement and exploration of instruments and exploration of our space and all that. I've been really trying to push that in kindergarten and first grade and not worry about notation and writing things down until second. So that's what we've really been doing. So in this lesson, we get to combine a little bit of all of those elements. We we take the rhythm cards that I've shared about in the past. In fact, on the links page, I put a link to last year's video about this time where I went through the entire lesson of this little poem that I made up called Everything Stew, where I share about these little rhythm cards that have different fall-themed foods and rhythms on them. And so what we do in this lesson is it's a little bit of arranging, some sort of composition in small groups, but it's also reading and clapping and stomping and patting using body percussion for the rhythms that are associated with foods. But then, sort of the best part about it is that kids get to like put different food words in a row, and then they're responsible for reading the rhythm that goes with it, for working a little bit of an ensemble work with the kids who are in their small group, and it's just a really fun lesson for them. And they think it's about food when really the food is just the way that we get to the reading of the rhythms and the playing of the rhythms and the arranging of the notes into different patterns. And this resource is one of the rhythm sort resources that I made. I've done them for like every season and every theme and all different, there's food and there's snow and there's St. Paddy's Day and Valentine's Day and there's farm and under the sea, all sorts of things. But I'm using these for Thanksgiving because it's a fun way to connect. Kids love things about food. And we use these for all sorts of different things. If you run into another part where, at the end of your lesson, you're like, oh, no, I got 5 minutes, but I got to all of my objectives for this lesson. These cards give you tons of little options. You could, have kids sort out so that all the words that have a ta, rest are together, and then all the words that are ta, ta are together, and all the words that are toddy, toddy are together, which is 2 sets of eighth notes. You have options for extension with these resources, and so it's nice to have them all bagged up and ready to go. There's a lot you can do with these cards. And like I said, I shared a whole video last year about this specific lesson and how I do it. So if you're interested in that, that's linked on the links page. And then that takes us through all of the lesson, honestly, because by the time we get tone blocks and hand drums put away, and then pull out the cards and talk through and learn the poem and learn the silly backstory I made up, by the time we do all of that, we really only have enough time to get through the main parts of this lesson and do all of those things. So in the next lesson, hopefully we'll do some more extensions of this. Third grade, our folk dance nights are next week. I'm so excited to be done teaching these folk dances because I've been teaching them sort of one by one through the last several weeks, and now we're finally to the part where we're going to share with our parents. And thanks to the folks who all wrote in, there were a lot of folks who've been watching me talk about these folk songs and folk dance night and have shared some of their lessons, their notes home, their great resources and all the things that they use for family folk dance night. So I'm so thankful for people who've sent those to me. But I'll report back after next week about how those folk dance nights went. So this week's lessons are really just sort of running through all the dances that we can and talk about what are you going to do next week? When are you going to show up? What do you need to wear? All that sort of stuff, because it's different than performances they've done in the past. It's not really a performance. It's really just sort of like we're exploring and doing it with our families, and I'm really exploring because I've never done one of these nights before. So we're sort of talking through some of the logistics and all that in the lesson, and that takes a bit of time. Fourth grade, we're also preparing for a performance for a community event. We're getting ready for our winter concert, which is not until December. But what we're doing is basically like we open and close with numbers that everyone sings. So we have to review and rehash that. The program I'm doing for fourth grade is called December Around the World. It's a John Jacobson mini musical. And it's actually not too difficult, but what is sort of difficult is there's a lot of foreign language in it because it's about, traditions around the world. So in just the beginning song, we sing in English, and then German, Spanish, Swahili, and Japanese, and that's just in the first song. So it's a little snippet, but trying to get kids to learn all those things has been very interesting, especially when you'll only see them once every 7 days. So our opener and our closer we sing as a whole grade level, and then each of the home rooms will pair off and do like a special just for us song, and so we'll have 4 little mini songs in there. So what we're doing in this lesson, we're remembering the first song, sort of running through, rehashing all of that. We're talking about where the resources are online if they want to learn it at home. We have a learning management system called Canvas. I know a lot of people also probably have Canvas or maybe Blackboard, and so I'm able to post video links and things that I found online that were already on YouTube that another music teacher somewhere out there, thank you, other music teacher, had posted that were like rehearsal links for their students. So I posted those through Canvas so that kids on, a day off or in an after-school program or whatever can go in and listen to. So in this lesson, we run through the first song, we talk through how to go and practice it on your own at home, and then we also work through and learn our specialty just for us song. And then if they can get through that, and many of them are there, we then go into our closer, and so that kids can learn that and do that. One of the other things is that I also talk to kids about, hey, guess what? In the next lesson, the next time you come, we're going to have auditions for speaking parts. Oh my gosh, speaking parts, how exciting. Remember when we saw that last year, when the 4th graders from last year did the thing and you got to see them, they went to the mics, and so we talk through like what the audition process is going to be like in the class and what they can expect. And then, I try and downplay it because the way I do auditions is really simple, but I just want kids to have a chance to sort of know that it's coming, so that they don't get stressed out when they show up next time and, oh my gosh, it's audition day. But really for my students, all I do for auditions is I let anybody who wants to audition come up and just read a few lines in front of the class and sort of show their intent and interest. And then I go through for the kids I know, I talk with the homeroom teacher and say like, hey, what do you think? And get their input so that we can sort of see like, oh, who's going to really go home and learn the lines, who's not, so that that I have that input going in, and then I assign parts that way. But I try and give out as many parts as I can. I don't do one part for every kid, but only for the kids who I know are really going to work for it and who are interested and have the ability to actually go home and practice and do it. Okay, but I tell them in this lesson, hey, auditions are going to be next time. Here's what it's going to sort of be like. So that, again, they're not blindsided when they walk in like, wait, I've got to do this today? Like, I just give them a little bit so they can think about it, decide if they want to do it, and stand up and in front of the class and do that the next time I see them. Okay, and then 5th grade, a couple weeks ago I talked about I've got this very interesting set of 5th graders, and they're very rambunctious and rowdy, and they come at the very end of the day, which is frustrating. And so what we've been doing in the last couple lessons, and it feels sort of pedantic, honestly, is we're working on how do you take the instruments off the wall, how do you take them out, how do you take off bars, how do you set things in the right pentatone, how do you do the very basic accompaniment patterns. We do a little bit of improvisation, we mix all of that together, but honestly a lot of it is like resetting expectations, because kids have gotten so out of hand in this grade that all of our students, all of the specials teachers are sort of taking it back a level and sort of dialing down the content so that we can focus on the management. And that's one of, I think, the hardest lessons for teachers to learn, is that sometimes your content has to take a back seat because you cannot adequately teach, like you can't go on unless students are under control, and not like under my thumb under control, but they need to learn what the expectations are for the classroom. They need to understand the procedures. They need to know that you're going to follow through, and they just need to be understanding and secure on what those expectations are for the classroom. Because if you rush into content and sort of leave those expectations behind, you won't be able to teach the content because the kids they'll be a hot mess. They'll just get out of control. So what all the specialists are doing, and we've talked about, is sort of dialing back what we're working on, pushing for, and we're working on some of those expectations. So for me, it's how do you get out the instruments? Oh, I'm so sorry, you guys are not, this duet, you're not showing me that, you're going to sit and listen, or that you're going to even pay attention, so you can't have an instrument yet. Gosh, I hope you can get one by the time class is over. Okay, you all can go get an instrument because you're doing so good. Oh, wow, I love how you're taking that off the wall. And it's just like 45 minutes of like seeing the good, sort of tamping down the what I don't want to have happen, bringing out, oh wow, that's so impressive, I love how you're doing, oh wow, good, oh that crossover is wonderful, hitting those basics and encouraging all the things that need to happen so that in the coming lessons they'll be really great. So that's sort of been happening the last lesson or two. What we're doing in this lesson is we've been doing things in C pentatonic, so in this lesson we're doing things in F pentatonic. We're pulling a song from the beginning of the school year, Alabama Gal, and we're trying out different accompaniment patterns. And again, because it's in F pentatonic, the kids think it's sort of different and unusual and exciting, and they have to look for different notes to play. So it sort of mixes up and makes them really have to apply the knowledge that they already have from the last several weeks. And so we try a chord bourdon, a broken bourdon, and a crossover bourdon. And if you're an Orff person, you know what that is. If you're not, send me a message or check out online. There are different accompaniment patterns that you can play on the barred percussion instruments. We also, though, are improvising in this lesson. And so we go through and have in between sections of playing accompaniment, we have a chance to improvise a few bars or echo back rhythms and make choices about what bars we play. And the kids like that because they feel a little bit of freedom, but it's freedom within the structure of the scaffolding of the lesson. And so kids are honestly very successful, and their behavior has really improved quite a bit. And I think part of it is the carrot of, oh, well, we're going to play instruments, but only if, and also like, oh, I'm giving you more intricate, interesting things to do with the instruments, and you're getting a choice, but only if, and sort of reinforcing the behaviors and expectations are so important, and I have high expectations. Yeah, so F pentatonic, new song, or sorry, not a new song, bring back an older song, and we're applying all the things that we've learned. One of my favorite things, though, is I have students in duets and pairs, and so each pair gets an instrument, so maybe a soprano metallophone, or a glockenspiel, or a xylophone, or whatever, and they work and they trade off, and they go back and forth playing different things. One of the things that we do is then we rotate. So I rotate either one of two ways. So if the class really does just need a lot of help and they are having lots of behavior issues, I will go and say, great, this duet, you two switch. And this duet, you two switch. And I try and always have them rotate so that, a glockenspiel becomes a xylophone or a metallophone becomes a xylophone. So either they switch timbres or they switch voices. So a soprano to a bass, or an alto to a soprano, or something like that. And I can make that decision. That's if the class is having some sort of struggle, or I really am cut for time. If I have a little bit more time, or they have shown that they can get a little more freedom, I play knockout, and so I have one duet stand up, the one that's done so amazing. Well, I'm so impressed by how great you're doing. Like they stand up, and then they get to go choose any other instrument they want. And if there are kids sitting at it, they take them out, and then that other duet has to stand up and go knock somebody else off an instrument and take their instrument. And then they go take... So it's basically a little shuffle game, and it feels a little bit like White Elephant, I don't know the name of that... like you have a white elephant gift at Christmas, and you go take someone's... You steal it, I don't know what they call them, dirty stealing... I don't know. Anyway, but it sort of feels a little bit like that, because you get to take an instrument, steal someone else's instrument. And if there's ever a problem, I can always step in and be like, we better choose a different place or whatever. But kids like it. They think it's super fun, and they think it's a game when really it's just like rotate and sort of make a choice when you rotate. But they think it's like this most amazing thing. Okay, let me jump back into kindergarten and do a little bit more into the process of kindergarten. Kindergarten in just the last couple weeks is really, now they come in and they seat themselves, and my expectation is I've said to them too, like, next time I see you, or when I see you, when you come back, remember, I'm going to meet you at the door with my ukulele, and I'm going to be singing the circle song, and as soon as you're in the room, you can sing the circle song too, and you can make the circle, and I'm so excited to see how you do that. And so at the end of class, I tell them, like, ooh, remember, the next time I see you, I'm going to be standing at the door with my ukulele. So when they actually show up for this lesson, there I am at the door with my ukulele. And I remind them before they even come into the hallway, remember, you get to seat yourselves. Remember, as soon as you're in the room, you get to sing. Remember, you get to do the circle. Oh, so excited. I can't wait to see how you're going to do. And I sort of prep them in the hallway, and then I'll play and walk them in, and they get to make the circle and do their own thing. We do some echoing back and forth. We do, with the tone block, we take... just like the other grades I talked about, every other kid gets a tone block. With second grade, I think I shared that every other kid gets a tone block, and in between each tone block, I'll hand the kid who doesn't have an instrument, I'll hand them a hand drum, and we, do some back and forth different things with timbres and rhythms. Kindergarten, we don't do that. Either you have a tone block or you clap, or you pat your knees. But you are active no matter whether you have a tone block or not. But the kids with the tone block, we do a couple different things. So, I might, I'll tap mine and they tap theirs. So kids will tap. Okay. And then I'll tap. And then they tap. And then, for the next time, I might say, you know what? I'm going to clap and you turn that into taps on your tone block. And then they'll tap. So there's a little bit of transfer of this other sound I'm going to have to turn into taps, or maybe I'll play on a wood block, or maybe I'll play on a cowbell, and they have to play on the tone block. One of the things I talk to kids about is how to use the mallet. You always want to make sure that the ball of the mallet strikes the tone block, and that's tricky for some kindergartners, well, a lot of kindergartners. And I try and make sure to show them not to let the stick hit the tone block, and I even say, if I wanted the stick part to hit the tone block, I would have just given you a stick, but I gave you a mallet, and mallets are special because they've got this ball on the end, or a bigger part on the end, right? And that's the part you're going to use. So be very careful. Make sure that you're tapping with that part, not just the stick. You're tapping right on the end with the mallet. Okay, so that's one of the things that I focus on. We also explore, where can you tap? Oh, that sounds fun. What if we tapped here? Ooh, that's interesting. What if we tap here? Oh, that's it. Today, one kid goes, Mr. Rao, what if we hold the mallet and tap with the tone block? And I was like, oh, I don't know, let's try it. And we all decided that that's actually harder to do. But those are things that we explore. So then I'll even say ooh, I wonder if we can make the tone block quiet, like this. Instead of tapping lighter so it's quieter, or maybe tapping in a different place for it to be quieter. We talk about those things. I also pull out, and I know it's so tragic for students, but the tail of the two tone blocks. One that sounds like this, and one that sounds like this. And I talk about the little girl who took a mallet and hit as hard as she could, and it broke this tone block. So now it doesn't sound like that. It sounds like it's broken. They go, it does sound like it's broken. But I say, but you know what? It's okay. We can still use it for different things. Don't worry. And later on in the year, I bring it up and we use it sort of like a guiro. So anyway, so it's okay. It's still good. But we talk about hit with the ball part of the mallet. Try and make the best sounds you can. Be careful with it. Make sure you're hitting with the ball part, and then don't hit so hard because we don't want to break it, because everyone in the school has to use these tone blocks, not just our class. So we got to be very careful. But that's all in just the first few minutes. But it's so fun to explore some of those things and try it with the kids, and see what we can come up with, because there's a lot. In the last lesson, we learned the song Highway Number 1, which you can find on the album by Shenanigans. I can't remember the name of the album. It's a creative movement. Or just maybe funny songs, I'm not sure. I'll look that up. But you can also find on Spotify, if you search Highway Number 1 and Shenanigans, you can find that. But it's a super fun song, and what my students do is we stand up, we pretend that we have a little steering wheel, and we drive around the edge of the room so close you could almost touch the wall if you wanted to. We're not going to touch the wall, but if you were so close you could touch. You could just reach out and touch. And we drive around, and the fun thing about the song is the kids get to drive, which in and of itself is an important thing. It means that they're going to go and they're going to walk past the instruments. They're going to walk past the puppets. They're going to walk past the comfy chair. They're going to walk past the teacher desk, and it sort of gives them a tour of the room a little bit. But also, it's two parts of the song. It's an A-B, so that when they're driving, that's the first part. They drive and they can sing. And then for the B part, the song is fun because it says, And when I got to Sydney, I stopped to see someone, and she said, hop, hop, hop and stop. And then the kids get to hop, hop, hop and stop. And then they drive around. And when I got to Darwin, I stopped to see someone, and he said, side together wiggle. And they get to do the little movement. So there's the drive and then the action, and the drive and the action, and the drive and the action. And they love it. It's fun. They think it's fun to be able to go around the edge of the room, to do all of that, to explore the room a little bit. But also gets them moving in a lot of fun different ways in a very short amount of time. So it's super valuable, and if nothing else, it gets them up, it gets them moving around the room so that they can get some of that energy out after we just focus so much on tone blocks and trying and creating, because in a second I'm going to ask them to focus up and do more. So it's sort of a movement break, but also it's reinforcing A-B form, it's giving them a tour of the room, it's getting them to move in different ways. It's just such a great song because it checks so many boxes in just the span of 3 minutes. And it's from Australia, and they get to hear kids singing in an accent, and they get to hear kids singing. It's a great recording. They sit down and we do a song called No More Pie, which you might be familiar with. And it goes, oh my, and the kids get to echo back, oh my, no more pie, no more pie. And it goes through this series of things that happen to this poor person who is having a really very bad day, honestly. But it's very fun because the kids get to sing back and echo each thing that happens. The first time I do it, I sort of extend it and tell it as a story. And I say, it's on Thanksgiving Day and we've had all this dessert and we're so full, and we say, oh my, no more pie. And they get to sing back, no more pie. And I say, I don't want any more pie. I've had so much pie. And I'm just full of sweet things. I can't have anything more sweet. Pie's too sweet. And they sing back, pie's too sweet. But I don't know if I'm full. I don't want any more pie, but I want a piece of meat. I want a piece of meat. And then I say, but not this meat, because we put, this meat's too red. It's not been cooked all the way through. Meat's too red. And they go, meat's too red. I want a slice of bread. I want a slice of bread. So the fun thing is they're seeing me experience this story in, Comedy of Errors, but then they're also echoing back each thing, so they know it's fun because I'll say like, oh no, this meat, it's just not cooked right. Meat's too red, and they know that they get to sing that. So they're listening for my singing voice, and they're sort of anticipating what's coming next. And then what's also fun is I can go like, meat's too red, meat's too red. I want a piece of, or if even it's even better if I say, I want a slice of. And a kid says bread almost every time because they're starting to listen for the rhyme. They're anticipating what's happening. They're anticipating what's coming next, and it's just a very, very fun song. So we go through that, and I actually do it 2 times. The first time I do the extended version where I sort of am fleshing out the story of the song, and the second time we're just I sing, they echo, I sing, they echo, I sing, they echo, sort of just going through and breezing through it the next time. I bring out for the very first time, I say like, oh, you met my friend Snowy the owl, and you met my friend Grizzly the bear, and you met Skippy the squirrel, and we talk about some of the puppet friends that we've met along the way, and now I say, but I have so many more friends. You've seen so many of my puppet friends, and I'm so glad that you have. But I have so many more friends. I have these beanie friends, and they really are going to need some help. Because, just watch this. Let's see, who do I want to show you? Well, I've got this big worm, but that's not him. Oh, and I've got this rhino. Yeah, but no, not the rhino. That's not who I was meaning to show you. And then, oh, wait, no. Okay, yeah, hold on. Oh, you could meet the frog, but no, that's not who I wanted to. Oh, and not the squirrel. Yeah, no, but not the squirrel, but you know. Oh, here it is. It's my friend the bulldog. Oh, my goodness. And this bulldog is just not very good with a steady beat. Watch. Here, can you keep a steady beat? Mm-hmm. Okay, keep your steady beat. Oh, no. And the kids are like, I go, yeah, okay, no, steady beat. Remember, it doesn't get faster, it doesn't get slower. It stays the same. Mm-hmm. Okay, so can you show me a steady beat? Mm-hmm. Oh, no. Oh, no. Oh, for goodness sake. He's doing what? And the kids go, he's slowing down. You're right. Okay, steady beat means you don't speed up and you don't slow down. You stay the same. Okay, so let's try again. Oh, I think he's gotten it. No. It's got to stay the same. It can't be sort of crazy. It's got to be a nice steady beat. That's what he did. No, it's not. So you know what? Maybe you all could help. And watch this. If I hold him like by the neck and oh, actually the first time, just pet, be nice. And this first time, watch, I'll just tap him. Steady beat, steady beat, steady beat, steady beat. And I'm going to help him understand the steady beat. I'm going to help him by patting the steady beat. I wonder, what if I held him like by the scruff of the neck, like sometimes mom animals do to kid animals, or dad animals do to kid animals, and I just pick him up and sort of tap him. I could show him the steady beat. Steady beat, steady beat, steady beat, steady beat. See how that's so nice. Okay, now Mr. Bulldog, try on your own. See if you can do a steady beat. Okay. Perfect! So, Mr. Steady Beat, or Mr. Bulldog, you've really gotten it. That's great. So the steady beat. Gosh, I'm sorry, Instagram. That my phone is either not charging or shutting itself off or having problems. I hope that you'll still be there in a few minutes. The video seems to be working a little weird. But once we taught him the steady beat, he was able to do it. Did you see how that worked? Because remember, I patted him first. I showed him the steady beat, and then I picked him up into the steady beat. I bet I could even pet the steady beat. Isn't that cool? But you know what? The problem is I can only help so many beanie friends, and I'm running out of time, and I have so many more. Look, I've got all these. I've got this blue jay, and I've got this chameleon, and oh my gosh, and I've got this husky, I guess. I'm not sure exactly what it is. And then this koala, yeah, and then I've got this little worm. So many of these friends who just need help with the steady beat, and maybe you all could help me. Kindergarten, do you think you could help me? And so I hand out a little beanie buddy, and then they get to do all those things. And we do some of those things together, and we keep the steady beat. We pat it. We move it from hand to hand, which is really tricky. That's towards the end. But we can do all sorts of things like bounce them on our knee, bounce them on our head. We can tap the beanie buddy. We can put them on our knee and tap them. That's easier if you put it on your right knee, tap with your right hand. You're not crossing the midline, asking kids to do that. But you do all sorts of things. Give them experience trying all sorts of things, passing back and forth slowly, or putting on the ground and picking up, ground, up. I mean, there's so many things you can do. These Beanie Babies, by the way, were free because I emailed out to my staff several years ago and said, hey, I'd like to do this Beat Buddies thing, and I need some Beanie Babies, but I don't have any. So if you are looking and see like at a garage sale or something, like if you buy them, I'll pay you back if they're reasonable, or you see them at like a Goodwill or whatever. Well, I had a staff member email back and say like, my kids have a treasure trove of these that they're not going to use because they've not been in my house now for 15 years. Like they have their own kids or whatever, and they don't want them. So do you just want a bunch of them? So I got a ton of them for free, and I pulled the tags off of all of them except for the Bulldog. Apparently I need to take that off. I think he's the newest of all of them. Wrinkles, the Bulldog. But I pulled all the tags off, and I just have them ready, and kids love using them for the Beanie Buddy activity. So it's a super fun, easy way to get kids to do steady beat, to try steady beat. And then what's really fun is today, one of my students goes, Ms. Around, do you think we could sing No More Pie to the Beanie Buddy and tell the Beanie Buddy about that day? And I was like, sure, let's sing to our buddy. So he held our buddy and we sang, and we taught our buddy the song. And because I have so many, I have so many different ones. These were like a McDonald's promotion from years ago, that like most of these are the mini ones, so they're not like huge, so that they're pretty easy for kids to manipulate and handle, which is fun. But I have so many different ones that every kid gets something different. So there's no one who's like, oh man, I wanted the cat, or because they maybe got a chameleon or a fish or something different. So it's fun to have that variety. But like I said, you could probably get these for free if you just ask around. Ask your church, ask on Craigslist, ask wherever. Just like, anybody have any Beanie Babies they're hoping to get rid of? Because I'll use them with my kindergartners, and it'd be so great for learning in class. And some people are like, oh yeah, I would love to give to a school teacher. Anyway, check it out. I did a whole blog post about other things you can do with the Beanie Buddies. That's linked on the links page. But also, I think in there I talk about the process of how I get my own Beanie Buddies. So if you check that out on the links page, you can see that. And then in the last lesson we did Let Us Chase the Squirrel, which is a super fun song. But again, I bring it back just because in the last lesson we learned it. And so in this lesson, they feel more like they're pros at it. And so we try it. We go through a couple times. It's a fun little chase, especially at the end of the lesson when we've been focusing so hard. We are able to jump into that super fun song. And I actually have a beanie squirrel. And so, I can say, like, oh, I know he can be the one I help. And then as we're ready to put away, I go, what was that, Beanie? Oh, he knows a song we could do. Isn't that... Maybe you know what song it is. We're going to have to put our Beanie Buddies away. But when we do, the squirrel friend is going to help us remember a very fun song that we can try. And so it's sort of an easy connection, transition between the two different activities because I've got the beanie squirrel. I also have the finger puppet squirrel that we can use as we, run around the room. And like I said last time, I always if I have a finger puppet, I put it on just a mallet because I can I could hand the finger puppet from one kid to the next, but then kindergarten, who knows where their hands have been. And so, when they're putting their finger inside the puppet, that's just gross. But if I have a mallet that goes inside, and this squirrel doesn't really like this so much, but if I put the mallet inside, then I can hand the mallet to the kid, and then this part, the wooden part of the mallet, I can use a Lysol wipe on that. But I can't really do that with the squirrel puppet itself. So anytime I use a finger puppet, I put it on a mallet like that, so it's easy to transition. And then one more thing I wanted to show you because I've talked about it a couple times, but let me see if I can zoom in here. Again, another thing that we do at the end of class, and I've got these for every theme, but one of the things that I do is I do a little bit of vocal exploration. I hope you can sort of see this. But it's super fun because it ties into the theme. This is a Thanksgiving themed one. And it ties into sort of the fall animals because, again, in this Thanksgiving version, I put in some fall animals. But it says, help the raccoon hop along home. And so what we do is we start to make the connection between going up with our voice and going up in the space and down with our voice and down in the space. And we do this as a warm-up, just going woo, woo, woo. We use our hand to paint through the air. Well, in this one, it's actually painted on the screen. Woo, 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 woo. So often I'll start by giving them an example and then they get to try it on their own. So again, this is just connecting the actual written up and down. And I talk about paint through the air with your hand. Well, this actually does sort of look like it's painted through the air. And kids love that. And so they get to sort of match. And the fun thing about this is it's sort of all fall themed. And so, hop up and over the trees. Oh, good, there's a squirrel part because we just did the squirrel song. Show the squirrel how to get up to the last nut because it's collecting it. We learned that in class. And so there are just a bunch of different things that we can do. And if you have a smart board or a Promethean board where this is an option, going past all these fall themes, there's the turkey, there's the pilgrim, there's Devin helping make it to the last piece of pie. Well, then you can get to this one, and you can take your smartboard pen or your Promethean board pen, or if you're just projecting onto a whiteboard, you could just take out a dry erase marker. But you get to actually draw in the path that you want. It's not given for you, so you can actually create that sort of on your own. And I think there are 5 of those slides where the last fall with the leaves down to the ground. So you could either draw it on, or you could have kids turn their bodies into leaves, and they could move around the room and fall from high to low, and then their voices could match that. It gives them a chance to be a little bit more dramatic. But it's also fun when you give that kid the pen, to make their thing on the smartboard. They love drawing it on. They love that they're in control. They think that's so super fun. So using vocal exploration pages like this has made that connection a lot easier, so that when we talk about going high and low, going low on a staff or in the space, this is sort of the great activity that is a precursor for that. And I've made those for again, like every holiday and a ton of other themes like dinosaurs and underwater and, you know, all sorts of things. And so I put a link to that on the links page as well. But I feel like I've got one for like every occasion. But the vocal exploration, I use those for kinder and for first, and sometimes into second if we just need that reinforcement, but usually for the younger grades because it's a great thing that sort of leads then to written notation later. Okay, that's all my lessons for the week. That's kinder through fifth. And remember at the end of the lesson, once kinder's done, when they've lined up, I say, remember, the next time I see you, I'm going to meet you at the door. And I sort of, it ties everything together so that they know what's going to happen the next time when they come in, and they expect that. And they know that they're going to have the ability to seat themselves, and they think that's so much fun. Well, that's my kindergarten through fifth grade lessons for the week. Remember that if you're interested in any of those Christmas or winter themed books that I shared at the beginning of the video, you can find those on the links page. You can find, I have a whole page on Amazon with just bunches of Christmas and holiday books. There's some Hanukkah books, some Christmas books, some just sort of random winter themed books there. And you can either get them on Amazon if you want. You can also, because Amazon has all the information, you could take the ISBN, you could take the author's name and go find it at your local bookstore or library, or get it somewhere else. One of the online bookstores like Book Outlet or Better World Books. There are a lot of great places you can get that, but they are all just sort of linked on the Amazon page because it's an easy way to link all of that and put that information. And if you want, right now on my Facebook page and my Twitter and in the links to this video, you can go enter the Thanksgiving book giveaway, and that runs through Wednesday at midnight. So go enter, and you could win either Run Turkey Run, which I talked about in my first grade lessons. There was I Know a Little Lady Who Swallowed a Pie, or one of the two Over the River and Through the Woods books that I shared about earlier and in the last lesson. So go check it out. I hope you've had a great time tonight. I'm so sorry that I had problems with the Instagram video cutting out, and I'm sorry, Facebook, I haven't been able to see any comments or questions. I hope that if you had any, that someone answered them, because I don't know why I wasn't able to see them tonight. But next week I hope to have some of those kinks worked out, and I hope you'll join me again next Monday for another Musical Monday video. Have a great week, everyone.